Welcome everybody to Beauty Mind. It is Monday, and we have a special guest today, right, Allison? You want to introduce our?
Yes. Hello, Corey.
Hi.
What's up?
Corey is a stylist at my salon. She's also an educator. She was my associate 4 years ago. 4 years ago, right?
Yep.
4 years ago. Were you my last associate before I went on the or before I went off the floor?
Yes.
I feel like you were, but I couldn't
Yeah.
remember. I was trying to remember
you
if
were.
there's.
You were only doing one day behind the chair when I was your associate, so you were on your way out.
Yeah. Well, that was amazing to have you with me as my last associate. So I have very fond memories of our time together behind the chair. And then you obviously just like took all that and ran with it because now you're literally doing what you were doing with me on your own with your associate. So let's just start from the very, very beginning. So you were in beauty school. I found you at where? Paul Mitchell?
Yes. Yep. Paul Mitchell, Farmington Hills. Yep.
Yeah. So was tell me about when we first met. Was it a speaking event?
Yeah, you had come into the school with a couple other girls, just kind of talking about your salon culture and all of that, just like a little meet and greet, basically. And as soon as I saw you guys, I was like, that's where I want to work. And I still had over a year left in school, so I wasn't anywhere near ready to be like finding a salon home. But immediately I was like, that's the only place I'm going to work.
What was it about that? What, like, based on what she was speaking about, what they brought, the energy? What do you think?
Yeah, what did I say?
It was. I mean, other than just like fun, like it seemed like a fun place to work. It was more of the structure of the salon being a summit really spoke to me because I need structure and to succeed. And so the fact that it was something where you could very easily see the progression throughout the program, really, that's really what I most loved about the whole presentation. Was just it was very structured, very streamlined, very much if you do X, Y, and Z, you'll succeed. And that was very important to me because I was already 26 or 7 when I started school, so I needed to start making good money right away because I already had bills to pay. So
yeah, there's always a little bit of a difference between someone who's either like living at home still or maybe just fresh out of high school in beauty school, or someone who is well into their adult life, paying bills, like already had multiple jobs before, knows what the working world is like. There's just always a little bit of a difference in terms of like what they're looking for or what they know they want. And I feel like you knew exactly what you want when you met us because you were well into your working life, well into your adult life.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think at 26, you get to the point where you're like, what? For me, it took me a little longer, just like it takes most men. It takes us 29, 30, 60. But yeah, it gets to a point where you're kind of like, you have this moment where you're like, okay, well, I know what not to do. I've had my fun. I've wasted a lot of time, or I've gotten experience. But then you get to the point where you just want to like, just get to work, focus, find that structure, and that's I think what we're all about, just because of what we've learned has helped for our careers. And then and once you do it, it just makes sense. It's like, oh, of course, this is how it should be done. And then it feels like second nature, and that everybody knows this, but most people don't know that. So I love that you're able to identify that right from the get and just get right to work.
Yeah, and that's something I've noticed about Corey for the last 4 years is she is really good at identifying like what she wants, and she's not afraid to ask for it or to say like, hey, how can we make this happen? Which I think is probably why you've made it so far and got to where you are now. What made you want to be a hairstylist?
When I was younger, I always loved doing my own hair at home with box dye from CVS, but I toured a couple schools when I was about 18, 19, but I was very immature and very afraid to fail. So I never ended up going about that route. And then I had at least a dozen different jobs. And I was pretty good at everything I did. A lot of them were customer service related, but I was never in love with the job. And then when I got the email saying that I was going to have to start paying my student loans back, I said, I got to find a career because everything was dead end. And I said, you know what, let me go back to tourist school and see. And I went on my birthday, on my 26th birthday, to tour Paul Mitchell, and immediately was like, this is it. This is what I'm going to do. And I haven't looked back since, and that was 2019. So
Wow. And we just celebrated your 4 years. What was it, like a few weeks ago, wasn't it?
yeah, it was the very end of December was
So
my
end of
4th.
December of 2020, which means we had been reopened for the shutdown for, I don't know, like 3/4 of the year, maybe, or
Yeah.
half the
Yeah,
year.
we were still masked up, and it was a very interesting time to start, but I loved it.
Yeah. So when we talk about the highs and lows of being in the beauty industry, you started at a low. You started at my business's lowest low, which is very reassuring to me to say that we were in our hardest time, our hardest season of business, and you started on such a positive like note that we were actually we're still able to carry that positivity and that like good energy to the school, even though, maybe on the back end of things we were struggling. So I love
Yeah.
that.
Yeah,
So
it was my beginning. So it was my lowest point in my career because I didn't have a career yet. So it was kind of nice that everybody was kind of struggling a little because it helped me not feel so bad if things weren't like I wasn't making a ton of money right away.
yeah, that makes sense actually,
Mhm.
because everyone was kind of going through their own personal struggles. And so starting off without everyone else thriving, and then you're like, oh, hey, no clients, what's up?
Right.
Yeah, no, I definitely think I remember when you started off on a very strong foot. And I remember my clients immediately vibing with you. And I think it was probably had a lot to do with the maturity level that they felt like they were, they had somebody who was confident, and maybe you didn't have the experience, but you were so confident that it maybe mimicked that experience.
Mhm.
And I remember my clients really vibing with you. Out of all of my associates that I've had, you were definitely amongst the half of them that my clients were like, I love when she works on me. I love, her shampoos, her everything. You started off definitely on a strong foot. What would you say you contribute that like confidence to? Have you always been a really confident person?
No, it's definitely age. The older I have been getting, the less, I don't want to say insecure because I'm a woman. We're just insecure all the
We
time
have our
about
moments.
everything. We're in the beauty industry. Like that's just the nature of the beast, I guess. But like definitely the older I get, the less I'm worried about how people perceive me, I guess. I don't know. I definitely feel less nervous about the way that people look at me. And I think that really helps with this job, like really exuding confidence, even if at first you have to fake it. Eventually it's just real because then you get the feedback from your clients or people around you, and that feels really good, validating, and then that just feeds into it being real confidence.
Yeah, you definitely got to fake it till you make it.
Yeah, I think it's faking it. It's getting those reps in to build that confidence too. So many people I know deal with imposter syndrome and stuff too, especially early on in their career, and they should. Like they should have imposter syndrome in the beginning. Like I, I still have a tough time calling myself a screenplay writer because I'm like, oh well, I know, but I was an actor first. I'm not a screenplay writer, but no, I am. But when you first start anything, it's like, if you're insecure about certain things, especially like you said, in the beauty industry, but then you're also insecure in your career because it's like new, it's fresh. And is this going to be the right move? Are you going to be great? But once you just focus on the positives and fake it till you make it in a good way, then yeah, you build it over time. And everybody just needs to get reps in no matter what they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
Is that your dog barking?
Yes. Hang on one second.
Corey's at the salon right now doing our webinar from the salon.
This break is brought to you by our February 3rd
Elevate plan.
event.
Oh yeah, sorry.
Where our February 3rd event in Salt Lake City, you have 2.5 more days to buy tickets. There are limited seats available. You do get the Elevate planner there as well. Hey, pup.
Hi, Bela.
He was barking at the people outside the window.
Bela's like, let me in Allison's office. That's where I hang out with her at.
Anyway.
So what would you say your most pivotal moment in the last 4 years was?
Probably when I got my first associate, I'd say, because that was really a big jump from like just doing things on my own and worrying about my own career to then being responsible to help somebody else grow. And it's always been really important to me to help other people, because it's not, I mean, it can be very, very me sometimes with this type of a career. But it's just, in my opinion, it's important to help everybody out, to teach people what you know, even if you think it's not that different what you do, it might be. And that, I think definitely getting my first associate was the biggest jump and like eye-opening experience since I started my career.
Did you know you wanted to be an educator like from the very beginning?
Yeah. When I was in school, they had us write like our 5-year plans. And I put that I wanted to be an educator in the next 5 years. Whether that was with the state or just on my own or however that looked, I knew that I wanted to teach people. I grew up with teachers all around me. Half my friends are teachers. My mom's a teacher. So for a while there, I thought maybe I wanted to go into teaching, and I didn't end up doing that, but it's always been important to me to share what I know with other people.
Yeah. How do you feel like being an educator has changed how you are behind the chair? Like, how do you feel like that's changed either your relationship with your clients or your approach to doing hair?
I definitely have to have things more thought out now because I'm explaining it to another person. So eventually they get on the same wavelength as me after a couple of months, but like the first couple of months, I might say something and it makes sense up here, but it might not make sense to them. So I have to really make sure that I am clear and concise in the way that I explain things now so that another person will understand them. There were a couple times where with my like one of my first associates, and I was like, I said something to her and she went to go mix and she turned around, she goes, "What?" And I was like, okay, let me slow down. It really makes me think about my process a little more in depth because I have to explain it to somebody else.
Yeah, I definitely agree. On all my years of educating, you definitely realize that you have to be very specific when you're educating. And it's not because they don't necessarily get it. It's just that we move so fast when we're working behind the chair, especially after a few years, that they're just literally just trying to figure things out, figure out where things are in the salon, figure out, the lingo. And so we might just spit something out and then they go to do it. One of the main things that I'm remembering is with formulas. I would just go tell them to go mix like a certain formula, and they would come back and start applying. Like one specific situation, we were doing a root and a highlight, or no, I think we were doing a highlight low light, but because of the formula I gave her, she just immediately assumed it was a root and a highlight. And I like look over and she's applying the color to my client's scalp. And I'm like, no, that's supposed to be a foil. Like, skirt, like, let me stop what I was doing with my client and go back. And it was just, I was moving so fast and I just knew my client, and she maybe didn't want to ask more questions, or maybe she just totally thought that she knew what she was doing. And so it makes you realize that you do have to be so specific, and you do really have to think out the steps and think out how
And
you're
I
saying
told the
them.
girls too, I'm like, if I am not making sense, you need stop and ask me to repeat it, because I'm not, if you just turn around and you're just confident and then you don't know what I'm saying and you're afraid to ask me to repeat myself, we're going to have a mishap. And I don't want that. I'd rather I repeat it in a less abbreviated way so that you know exactly what I need. That doesn't, I feel like sometimes people are afraid to ask questions. And I tell the girls all the time, ask me. It's fine. If you are unsure, just ask me. I'd rather you ask me 10 times than we screw it up and then I have to fix it, because it's something that could take hours more if we screw something up, when it was just a simple extra 10 seconds for me to repeat it.
Yeah, definitely. There's something in the industry like how assistants were treated back in the day and how assistants, or as we call them, associates, are treated now. And I definitely love that the industry has changed. And I feel like as a whole, we're treating assistants and associates and apprentices better these days than back in the day when they were just kind of like sweeping hair and cleaning,
Mhm.
floorboards. But what would you say like is the number one thing that you feel like we do different at our salon with our associates? Or what sets our training program apart that maybe helped you and is also helping you with your current associates? What do you feel like those things are that sets us apart?
The timeline of things. I know that we've changed it a little bit recently to make it a little quicker for some people, but the fact that it's everything from A to Z is structured out, and you know exactly like at this point I should be doing this, that it makes it so much easier to map out your career when you have a very structured timeline of when things should be happening, where you should be at a certain point, and it prevents it from being you're stuck assisting and handing foils and washing hair for an entire year, and then all of a sudden you just have your chair and you don't know what you're doing. All you've ever done is the grunt work and you've never actually done any real hair, or you have to take clients on your day off, or it's like that's just never something I wanted to do. I always wanted to make sure I had a good work life balance, so I never wanted to be somewhere that didn't offer me an opportunity to grow during regular business hours. I didn't want to be working 60 hours a week when I first started. I was already well into my late 20s. I was already tired. I wanted to have it be, I don't know, not easier, but just way more structured. And the way that we do things here, it was always so important to me to have that, because I wanted a clear, if you do this, you will succeed. And that's definitely what we've established here. And it's nice to see, because I mean, I see it every day. Everybody here has gone through it, and we're all doing incredible work, and none of us are burnt out. And that's also a big thing, is not burning each other out or burning anybody out in the first 5 years.
Yeah, which is what we talk so much about at Mastermind Beauty now, is that burnout and
Yeah.
how to avoid it. Because I mean, it's insane to me that back in the day, I'm aging myself, and I keep saying back in the day because I've been in this industry for 18 years now. But back in the day, like burnout didn't happen until like 20 years, 25 years, 30 years in. I knew my mom was a stylist. I mean, maybe she was burnt out because she was momming and running a business, but like it wasn't, hairstylists weren't stopping doing hair, 5 years in. They weren't exhausted 5 years in. They were just, and I think part of it is that the structure behind how we do things helps people at our salon, but most salons don't have that structure. And so people are just kind of like trying to figure things out and trying to do it all by themselves, and just making decisions that are emotional in the moment but aren't for long-term success. And so people are burning out that way. But I also think the services that we're doing these days require a lot more labor and thought. We're not just like slapping highlights on and like leaving people untoned, or like throwing a root on, our clients. Like the trends have changed so much, and people are looking for so much more luxury services that require 3-4 hours at a time. Sometimes you can't double book during that time. Sometimes you can. Fortunate for us, we have so many associates around to help that pretty much anyone can double book if they need to, but not all salons have that. So, having that demand behind the chair these days, I think that has a lot to do with why people are burning out so quick.
Yeah, I agree. Putting so much on your plate that you can't sustain it long term. And like, yeah, things change. People have families and things like that, but I think it's just about managing our expectations too, of what you can and can't handle. Don't put too much on your plate right away, because that you're gonna be tired.
Yeah, and let's face it, a lot of people.
For that at all. I mean, yeah, there are days where I'm tired, but in general, I do not feel burnt out. If anything, the longer I go in this career, the more I feel like I can add to my plate, because I didn't do it too much too quickly.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
let's face it, most people are putting way too much on their plate right now. Like they're just trying to take on all these things. I hear a lot in this industry, like, especially lately in the last few years, like place all bets on yourself or like bet on yourself. And it's like, I never want to just bet on myself. I love working with a team, and that's like something that you and I both have in common. Like I just love working with a team. You will never catch me placing all bets on myself. I'm placing bets on all my team. I want to vibe together and achieve success together.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I like what you said about understanding what you can put on your plate too. And we talk a lot about chapters of life, and it really depends on what chapter of your life. If you have like 3 kids, your husband's working all the time too, and everybody, you're running around, like you might not be able to do everything you want in your career right now, but finding the correct formula for your life right now based on your expectations, and maybe you will be able to do that in 3 years or 5 years or 10 years if you want to like really maximize things. But really having that patience to match whatever you want in this life and know that it's going to happen over time is just makes a world of a difference. Because if you have these high expectations and you're trying to do everything and you want it to happen quickly, you're going to burn out. That's the only way. And then you'll learn that lesson, and then hopefully you won't do it the next time.
Yeah.
Yeah, Corey, you said something to me a few months ago. I think we were talking about something at the salon that you were helping with, and you were like, I like to take things on here as I can take them on, as I have the capacity to take things on without having to take work home with me. And I think that's also what has gotten you so far, is that you love to stand up to take on a leadership role, but you don't necessarily want that all the time or 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You like to do it when you have the capacity for it and the time for it.
Mm-hmm.
And that
And
definitely stood out to
found
me.
that I have a lot of time. And so, but it was more of not immediately saying yes to every little thing just to look good or whatever, whether it's like with the company or online or however it is. And it's really making sure that I am doing, if I take something on, I know that I can do it to the best of my ability, and I'm not going to be cutting corners, because you take too much on right out the gate and then you're going to have to cut corners somewhere. You're going to have to skimp on your quality somewhere. And it's just not worth it to me to put out something that isn't 110% my best just to say that I've done it. So when I do, like, and that's another thing with the confidence, like I feel confident in my ability to take more work on, to take on associates, to, come on here and talk with you. And that I wouldn't have had 4 years ago when I started, but I'm confident now in my abilities to do more.
Yeah, even, I mean, you went to the beauty school when I was in California in August. You went to the school by yourself. Well, not by yourself. You took a couple of our team members with us, but like you were basically like, you went, with the idea in mind that you were going to have to speak in front of these people and take a lead. And you taught, what did you teach? An extension application?
Yeah. Yep.
An extension install. And you did incredible. I was watching live on the Zoom, what was it, like a Zoom screen or something they had,
Mm-hmm.
and you killed it.
Well, thanks.
And that was
It was my
amazing.
first time, and I was very nervous, but it's another thing. You just can't let people know you're nervous. So,
Well, I mean, yeah.
really good.
I mean, I feel like I get a little, I guess maybe now it's like excitement, but every time I go, especially speaking live to a group, like you get that kind of like the jitters before, but then after, I mean, maybe I'm speaking for myself, but I feel like I could like run a marathon. I'm
Well,
like,
I don't run, but yeah, yeah.
I've never ran a marathon, but I feel like I could like set the world on fire. I'm not going to set the world on fire either, but
Yeah, we got a lot of good feedback
Mark, you're
from
muted.
it too.
My bad.
You're muted. What'd you say?
Go ahead, Corey. I'll follow.
No, we
Corey.
got a ton of great feedback from it, which then made me feel a lot better, because I didn't know how it was going to be received. And when we got a bunch of people who wanted to get to know us more in the salon, and that, reached out, followed me on Instagram, followed the other girls on Instagram, and just wanted to know more about us as a salon and how we do things. And that made me feel incredible, knowing that it was well received. Even some of the staff members at the school were saying how, they normally, there's a bunch of girls on their phones, people aren't paying attention, they're having side conversations. He said most of the girls were very, very much into what we were doing and engaged and asking questions. And so that made me feel, because I'd never done it before, so I wasn't sure what was normal. And so it was nice to hear from the staff who sees it all the time that we were very well received too.
Yeah, that's awesome. So I was going to say February 3rd, we'll be running a marathon after our event in Salt Lake City. If anybody wants to sign up for that, you got 2 days to do that. We do have
sick that day.
be sick at that time. I'll be good the whole day,
Yeah.
but I'll be sick at that time.
Not the whole day, just
6 p.m. A question from Caitlin in the chat. How do you prevent burnout personally? Is it firm boundaries or say no because that's something I still struggle with? For me personally, I'll start and maybe we can go around, we can round table this. I have to put, I know this is something similar to you, for you, Allison, as well, but I have to put myself first at the top of the day. One of the things that we talk a lot about is not just being excited about doing things, but actually putting in the actionable steps. And in order to be able to have the energy to withstand a really jam-packed day running multiple businesses and stuff like that, I have to go in and put time into myself first. So that is me waking up and showing up for myself. It really allows me to like center myself, see the full day ahead, and then have the stamina to go throughout the day. And then I would say the other thing is boundaries. It's really like saying yes to the things you should say yes to, but saying no to any other distractions that might, if you're burning the candle at both ends, you're eventually going to burn out. So if you're trying to do all the things, but also trying to take your career seriously and then show up for the education and then show up to work and then show to your friend's birthday party. I put out a video yesterday that I did 4 years ago. I said, when I first started my business, knowing I needed strong boundaries, because I always worried about what other people thought. I needed to show up for this and family things and friend things. I didn't go to a birthday party for 5 years because that was my thing. That was my boundary that I knew I couldn't go back to my old lifestyle. So I needed to create those firm boundaries because I needed to put the amount of work in throughout my day, but then also have the boundaries to not fully burn myself out. And even then, I think in that chapter of my life, I was still burning myself out to a certain extent. So now having more of a structure has really helped me out. How about you two?
Corey, go ahead.
I have not since being a little bit older and gaining that confidence in myself and my abilities. I don't put myself in situations where people can take advantage of me and to where people are asking too much of me. And so I think that really helps is if you don't, because it's like you give an inch and they take a mile sometimes. If you don't put yourself in a position that lets people know that you can be walked on and that you're willing to, it is a big confidence thing, I think, being willing to take things on, but also being able to say no and not putting yourself in a situation where you have to say no. So setting those boundaries when you first start a career, and then when you are able to take more on, offering that. Don't offer too much too quickly because that's how people are gonna it might not be an intentional or a negative thing that people take advantage. They might not know they're doing it, but making sure that you don't let people take advantage of you, even if it's by accident. Putting up it is a boundary, but it also is a confidence thing. You have to be confident in being able to set yourself up to say, this is what I can do. And then when you're ready, saying, I can do more.
Yeah. And having those conversations too with people. Hey, listen, like I used to love when people would get mad at me for not going to something because I knew that's when I was really putting myself first and had clear boundaries for the first time in my life. But having that conversation with somebody too, hard conversation, easy life. If you're having boundaries and you don't want to do certain things and you can't do them, have an honest conversation with somebody to let them know, and they still might not receive it well. I think there's a better chance they will if you have that conversation. But eventually those people, when they see what you're doing and what you're building, if you're building a career over time, those people come back and they're eventually going to understand and say, wow, I see why you didn't want to do X, Y, and Z.
I've seen a lot of stylists who work full-time, a full schedule like you do, and busy, double book, and take on an associate. I've seen a lot of people burn out doing that. And I think that you having a full schedule, being busy behind the chair, and taking on 3 associates, that's 3, because you just had 3, right? You have 2 now,
Yeah.
but you just had 3 last week, was it?
Yeah.
And that's 3 different personalities that you are now managing throughout the day with your own, like, I say managing, like people that you have to work side by side with. I mean, we're basically painting each other's sleeves. We work so closely together when we're working on clients. And, 3 different people that you're, making sure that your clients are not only communicating well with or, vibing with. It's a lot to manage in a day behind the chair. And I think it's incredible that you haven't burnt out. And that's how I know that you're doing a good job and that you do have boundaries, because you're taking on a lot behind the chair, but you're mentally taking care of yourself as well, so that you can have all these things and it can help you grow, and you're not like absolutely killing yourself behind the chair. And we do our one-on-ones and we do our check-ins and things like that. All those things that if there was something that you were going to burn out from, we would catch it. We'd be like, all right, this is not, we got to chill out. And you've had associates in the past that didn't work out, which I want to talk about that in a second, because I feel like a lot of people get discouraged when an associate doesn't work out. And so we'll get to that in a second. But first, I think for me with the burnout thing, my life is so busy behind the, in the salon, when I was working behind the chair, which I only take a couple clients a month now, but kids, Mastermind Beauty, I have a busy life. From the time I wake up till the time I go to bed, I'm busy. So to not burn out, you would think I need to take something away and stop doing something, like, stop working a certain day so that I can have a day of rest, or, whatever, stop working earlier in the day, whatever it is, shorten my hours. But instead I added 3 hours to my morning so that I could have time for myself. And that's how I don't get burnt out. And that is just like something that I realized in the last couple of days, when I was really thinking to myself, like, how am I so much busier now and my days are so much longer, but I'm not anywhere near burnt out as I was when I was, waking up at 8 o'clock, getting ready for work really quick, going to work for a few hours and coming home and sitting around or whatever I was doing. But I added those extra 3 hours to my morning to be able to spend time by myself. And that's how I don't burn out. So I want to go back to your first couple of associates. You got your first associate. Do you remember when?
Uh,
I don't.
probably
Probably.
two-ish years ago. Yeah. It was
Yeah.
pretty close after I got my level jumped to a 3.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the first, you've had a few that didn't work out. I don't even remember, because you've been doing this a while now and we've had people come and go. But I want to talk about that because I think so many people get discouraged when it doesn't work out and want to say, I'm not doing this anymore. And whether it didn't work out for reasons that our salon wasn't a good fit or whatever the reason may be, it's not always like a terrible reason why it doesn't work out. Sometimes it just doesn't work out. But you've done a really good job bouncing back from that. So what do you feel has helped you kind of keep going even in situations where it didn't work out?
I think it's being realistic with myself and looking at the situation from an outside perspective and saying that it wasn't anything that I had done. And also, like, that's something that when I would talk to you about it too, it was nothing ever that I had done or didn't do that caused it to not be the right fit. And so that I think that's really important to keep reminding myself, like, if things don't go my way sometimes, like, it's not always because I did anything wrong or didn't do something or anything like that. And like, I still have my first associate, I still have an incredible relationship with her. We get together all the time. She's doing great. We just weren't the right fit in the salon, but she and I are really good friends. And it doesn't have to be oh well, you don't want to work here, so we can't interact or whatever. Like, we're she's invited to my wedding, like, she's the best. We just it just wasn't the right time. And I
Yeah.
also was very green, and I was only 2 years behind the chair. And so I still had a lot of things to learn too, that, I mean, I don't think that I was necessarily ready in terms of where I was at in my career to have an associate, but I knew that I could get there. So now that I, am 4 years in, and I've gained some more clientele, and I've gained some more experience, and I am confident in my ability to teach someone. And I didn't have that 2 years ago. It was very much imposter syndrome time for the, like, I felt too green at that point, but I also still wanted to help people out. So I wasn't going to say no when I was offered an associate, because I still wanted to be able to be there for another person. But I don't think that I was confident enough in what I was doing and what I was teaching that I am now.
I think it was a necessary step. Looking back, I think that she was the perfect first associate to have and have it not work out, because it could have been so much worse, right? Sometimes we get people that, there is things that go wrong and that really hurt your feelings or hurt the situation. But she was such a good first person to not work out, because it's all good. Like, it's no
Yeah.
big deal. It didn't make you feel like, oh God, is that how it's always going to be when people don't work out? It's like, no, it's all good. Like, she's a great person. She's happy. She chose a different path, and it's all good. So that if it doesn't work out, it's no big deal.
Mhm.
And I think that was a necessary step to have, because looking back at my associates from the beginning, I was lucky. The first couple of associates did work out really well. But then when they don't, you need that. You need that to learn from. Every single person that comes into your life, especially that you're educating, teaches you something just as much as we teach them. So, and she obviously was a great, person to gain into your life. And so it's like, it's all good. And then that, when sometimes you have people that just aren't going to work out, and you keep that open mind, and you don't get married to the fact that, like, they're here, they're my associate, we have to make this work. This has to be a perfect, situation.
Mhm.
We can't have problems.
Yeah.
So
I know that it's a reflection on me if it doesn't work out all the time. Like, it's not, everybody's their own person. They make their own decisions in their careers, and I'm just there as a tool to help them. And if I'm not the right tool, then that's okay. And it has nothing to do with me, my abilities, anything like that.
yeah, I like to say it doesn't always have to be a thing.
Yeah.
It can just be. And that's the beauty of having an associate program in your salon, and why I think it's so important for salons to have some sort of training program, because it really, like, it makes sure for both people that they feel like they're a good fit. It makes sure the salon feels that the team member is a good fit, and it makes sure that the team member feels at home in their salon, like they're in the salon that will be the best fit for them. So it's kind of like a trial period, and I can't imagine what we would have had without that.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that, because when you were in beauty school, you would come and shadow at the salon? Do you feel like that solidified your decision? Is there a reason that you came
Yeah.
and shadowed beforehand?
Absolutely. I knew what I wanted, and I knew that I had to stay relevant in your brain in order to get that, because there's so many people. Like, I mean, I was in school with 100 people. So there's so many people out there, and I wanted to make sure that I was putting myself out there to make sure that I was going to be in a place that I thought was the best fit for me. So I came in, I still had a year left in school. I was nowhere near ready to be looking at salons, to be doing interviews, anything like that. But I wanted to make sure that I stayed up here for you, so
I
that
did
way
not forget.
when it did come time, and of course COVID kind of screwed everything up a little bit, because that was pretty close to the end of my career in school. But I feel like making sure that you are putting yourself out there to people who are going to help you succeed is so important.
Yeah, definitely. So we had lunch last week, and we have some plans for this year. So let's talk about them.
Um, well, we're going to be teaching some classes.
Yeah.
that
So Corey came to me. Mark, I don't think I've shared this with you yet. So Corey came to me last, well, we've been talking about this for a couple of months, but she came to me
Mhm.
last week. She's like, let's go to lunch. And we had a little chat. So we're going to be hosting some education classes at Salon Bellevue, which is nothing new. Like we've always been a host salon for brands and always had a lot of education, but we are going to be teaching education in our salon with our stylist and inviting outside people to come to our in-house classes. So I'm super excited about that.
Awesome. That's great.
Yeah, we've got a date set in March for Corey. So I'll be announcing that pretty soon. She's going to be teaching a placement class of my color placement.
Yes.
I'm
Yeah.
hoping my color lines up with it because I want to be the model.
Well, it should.
The color you do on me is my favorite. I am obsessed with this color.
Yeah,
Obsessed with it.
I think at this point now I'm finally at the point in my career where because at first I was like, I mean, because I had one of our stylists asked me to teach her how I foil, and I'm like, I don't really know if I do anything fancy, but like I'll show you what I do. And I think that that's most of it, is like there's so many ways to do the same thing. So it's just, this is my way of doing it, and whether or not people are going to gain, you know, new knowledge from that, or if they're like, oh, I do that already, they might, you know, learn a new technique, learn a new way of doing things, learn a faster way of doing things that they may have not have ever thought of. So just because it's normal for me and I do it multiple times a week doesn't mean that it's normal for somebody else. So it's really important for me to step outside and be like, okay, somebody else might need this knowledge too. So it kind of helps for me to not be so nervous, I guess, when it comes to like teaching people, because that not everybody, and I do it every day with my associates. So now that I've been doing that every day, it'll help me teach, you know, people who I don't know.
Yeah, well, I've been in the industry for 18 years and I watch you foil me. And the way that you put the foils in might not be different than someone else popping a foil in. And the way that maybe section the hair might not be different, but there is something that you do that makes it turn out this way, right? And so there's obviously something to be taught in that. And it is so easy for us. Mark and I talk about this a lot too. Like what we do behind the chair or just in our businesses every day becomes so second nature to ourselves that we're like, oh, everybody knows this. Everybody does this. Everybody
Yeah.
thinks this way. Everybody touches the hair, with the brush or with the color on the brush this way, but they don't.
Mm-hmm.
There's so many different ways to do so many things. And I'm really excited to be able to teach our mastermind beauty education and our mindset stuff alongside you, like to do some collaborative classes and just bring some education to the industry. I love hosting classes. I love having people come in our salon and just like meeting other stylists and other salon owners. So I'm really excited to have some local classes that we can just invite people to and have a good time.
Mm-hmm.
So we have our class coming up in 1 week from today in Salt Lake City. Corey's coming. What made you want to come?
Um,
Other
I think,
than because you want to party?
well, I at the point where I can enjoy, you know, stuff like that. Like before, when you like had other trips and things and we were invited, and I just didn't feel like I was at the point in my career where I could afford to do that, afford to like spend the time, go on a trip. And I feel like now I'm at the point where I can do that, but also it's important for me to network with people too, because I know me, and I'm not, like we talked about this when we went to lunch, I'm gonna need to find eventually another way of staying in this career that might not necessarily be behind the chair. So it's really important for me to branch out into different avenues of this industry to make sure that I can continue to make money when I do have a family and can't necessarily be behind the chair 5 days a week.
Yeah, and I love that you're thinking about that. So many stylists that work in a salon think that the only way to do something else is to go do it alone instead of, and sometimes that is sometimes that is the best answer, but sometimes it's just find different things to do in the salon. There's so much opportunity that can come with working with a team. And I love extending those opportunities. And I'm so excited to just like introduce you to other people in my network and just have a good time and bring you along and just show you, things that you haven't experienced yet that I was so blessed that other people brought me along to experience. So I'm so excited to pass that on to you. And you're even already passing that opportunity on to your associates because they're coming too. So it's going to be incredible. And I'm just so excited to see like the opportunities that open up because yeah, you are getting married, and you're going to be having a family soon and things like that. And it's so important to think about like what's next, what's in the future. Plan ahead, start making those little changes in your day-to-day life now that can benefit your future and open the door for you down the road.
Yep.
Yeah,
Amazing.
I love the fact that this beauty industry is. I mean, I was always adjacent to the beauty industry and would pop my head in every once in a while. But there's so much opportunity, so many people out there that are like-minded because they've had similar careers, but so much opportunity in this game. And yeah, excited to have you out there with us, Corey.
Yeah, I'm so excited. My first work trip.
Yay. First of many.
Yes.
What would you tell if we had some new stylists in this that are watching, wondering how they can get from fresh out of beauty school or fresh into their career to becoming an educator in such a short amount of time, in just a few years? What would you tell them to do?
You have to want it. You have to work for it. No one's going to just hand you opportunities. There's a fine line between pushing yourself too far and again burning yourself out, and then also to be able to get a point where you're happy and you're thriving and all of that. Like I feel like I set goals for myself for the next several years, and I said, who do I need to talk to get there? Who do I need to be around to get there? And I definitely have put myself in a situation where I am surrounded by people who are there to help me succeed. And that is so important, is just surround yourself by people who are going to help you get to where you want to be without it being so overwhelming. Like I have really put myself in a great situation where I can do all the things I want to do, and I at the end of the day go home and I'm happy, and I don't feel overwhelmed by the career. I don't come home after a long day and there's no negativity, like nothing. I've put myself in a really great situation. And I just think that if sometimes people get nervous that they have to jump on an opportunity just because it presented itself, and it might not be the right fit, and then you've wasted years on something that isn't right. So really take your time, make sure that if you're going to go into a salon, it's the right fit for you, that you're surrounded by people who are going to help you and not be a roadblock for you. Because sometimes I think that people will just say, well, they're offering me a job. Well, what benefits do you get from that job? What type of people are you surrounded by? Are you with a bunch of people who are not your peers and aren't going to treat you as an equal? And yeah, I think just making sure that you know what you want, you know what your goals are, and surrounding yourself by people who are going to help you get there.
I love that. We talk about that all the time. That is on brand of you to say that on our webinar, because we are always like, what do you want? Stop co-signing other people's dreams and goals. Like, what do you want? What is your version of happiness? What is your version of success? And then go after that. And you've literally done that. Amazing.
I'm gonna keep doing it because I'm not done. You got a lot of years.
We're just getting started, my friend. Well, I loved having you on. I'm really excited to start opening our webinar to other people on our team and just like chat with you guys on here and just get to see things from your guys' perspectives a little bit more. Obviously, I talk to you every single day, but just to be able to teach other people how we do things and how that, I mean, obviously I can talk about how we do things at the salon all day long because I think it's a great idea and I think it's a great, salon, but to see it from your perspective and the choices that you've made, like to be a part of our team and to grow with our team so much. I love that we can have people learn from you, from your perspective of being, you know, a commission stylist who is making great money, who is absolutely growing like every single day, every single week, every single month. There's so much growth to be had still. And to be able to do that as a team is just amazing.
Absolutely. All right, cool. Well, where can they find you all?
Where can they find you, Cor?
I'm mostly just on Instagram. It's just Corey Bella V. The whole team is very easy to find. We're all our name, then Bella V, which is another thing that is great for us. But yep, that's mostly where I'm at. I'm always on there. So I tell everybody is like, if you need to get a hold of me, send me a message. I'm there. I have my phone right here.
Yeah, so you can find her at Corey Bellavi. That's CorieBellavi. And thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
I will see you. What's today? Monday? I will see you tomorrow.
Okay.
And I'll see you in a week. All right, y'all.
Yeah.
Have a good one.
Bye.
Peace.
Bye.